All right, y'all, welcome back to the Abundant Harvest Homestead. I'm Papa Pepper. In this video, I'm going to talk about a couple things that I'm doing just as a hedge of protection. A couple things. What do we got? We got inflation looming. Our money's not really worth anything anyway. As far as petrodollar, that looks like it may be gone soon. People may be switching over to some other currencies. It's not backed by anything. Inflation is already kicking in. In the past couple years, a number of people have been told that, they're non-essential, their businesses are non-essential, the things that they want to buy at the store, those are non-essential, and they have that type of rule and reign over you to say, nope, you can't come to work anymore. Nope, you can't run your business anymore. They've done that. And if they've done it once and gotten away with it, they may be doing it again. And then there's all the supply chain stuff, whether intentional or accidental or just happen chance. Either way, when you're a consumer, you're dependent upon others. You're dependent if you're not a producer. So for a long time, the lifestyle that I've been choosing to live is one out in the middle of nowhere with some stewardship of certain things. You've often maybe heard me say things like, if I can't make it or grow it, I'd rather acquire it and have it. That's why I don't throw away all sorts of stuff. I'd rather keep them and use them because I see the potential value. A scrap piece of wire, I can't make that or grow that. So I'm going to hang on to that and then not have to buy it later. Also, you can observe my lifestyle. And a while ago, I'm like, you know what? The way that we homestead, which some people say is a real way of homesteading, meaning that, we're not rich, we're not running to the store every time we need something, we're being creative, we're using what we got. But that style of homesteading is almost like living a third world life in a first world nation. So I'm going to go through a couple different things that we're doing right now, and I would like you in the comment section, anything that I don't hit here, feel free to mention. I want to think about it, but also other people, who might encounter it in the comment section. Maybe a good blessing to them too. So let's get started. One of the first ones I want to mention is kind of what you see behind me here, and there's more of that going on other places. But basically, I can still go get cans of vegetables. I can go get other things for about 50 cents to $1 a piece right now. So if I grab just a 12 pack in the tray when I'm at the store and spend an extra $6 like every time I go shopping or even more, I'd rather have that supply on hand because that's important. Not everything we need to sustain our family is stuff that we grow ourselves at this point, so we still go shopping at the grocery store. So acquiring things that are going to last longer, yeah, right back there, that's going to be beneficial to us. Also, I mentioned this I think before in a different video, but since I'm standing right here, here's a good example. These are fishing hooks. This is part of how we provide for ourselves. But here, I think is 150 hooks. And I've got a number of those, like 8 of them up there or something. Okay? Why? Because I can go and spend a couple bucks at this point and get those, and that should be a lifetime supply, even with 10 people in my family being able to go fishing. Me, my wife, 8 children. Even if we lost, we'd have to each lose like 100 hooks to use up that supply. So I think that that's a really good supply to have on hand. We have a good relationship with the lake. We know how to get all sorts of food out of there, and then of course how to turn it into delicious meals too. So I want to get those things before they cost a whole lot more. Sitting here on the package, that's not gonna wear out. That's not gonna rust. That's not gonna be destroyed. It's gonna be here when I need it. And if I can get them for like a cent a piece right now, that makes sense. Also, you'll see I've got other things sitting out here, like just new knives, other things. Get stuff now while it's cheap, especially if you can just have it last. Also, this is a lean-to shed type thing. One thing that I'll mention as well is to protect your investments. Whatever you have acquired, make sure that you have somewhere safe to keep it. I'll show you in a second, I got some things I got to move into a covering. But maybe you need to build something. Maybe you need extra storage space. If you're going to acquire things, don't just acquire them so that, rust and moth destroy them. Have them stored properly so that way you can have them when you need them later. Right now, bow season is upon us, so I got a crossbow. That's a great way to get deer from the wild. They reproduce after their own kind. They're always going to be there, pretty much. So I can take them off, during the hunting season. Now, if things get really bad and things change, you might still need to go hunting. So one thing I do, pick up extra. The crossbow bolts, if I don't have these, and I can break one of these, missing a deer even. But if I don't have these, then my crossbow is pretty much worthless. Even if I make something, it's not going to be the right weight. It's not going to be to the standard of kind of perfection that these are. So I don't mind acquiring extra right now. Same thing with like my hunting rifle. I should go acquire some more rounds of ammunition for that, because otherwise it's useless to me. If it doesn't have what it needs to function properly, if I run out of ammo, then it's worthless to me. So get extra of that type of stuff on hand now. One, if you can afford it, it's a great way to protect your assets right now, changing your money while it's worth this much and turning into that product rather than waiting for it to be less and having to grab a whole bunch more to buy, less of something. Good way to protect it. And also in a recent video, I was mentioning you might want to get a hold of whatever you actually want to be growing to get that stuff right now. When we were up in Missouri for the Feast of Tabernacles, some friends were running out to Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. I said, you know what? Why don't you get me some of the Bullseye toothache plant seeds? We've grown the other kind for ourselves for a while, saved our own seeds, but I thought get some fresh seeds of a different kind. That would be a good idea. And some other ones too. My encouragement to people would be anything you think you might want to grow in the future, acquire now. Get the seeds for it now. That way you have an opportunity to grow them in the future. If a seed company has a couple of bad years, they might lose their supply. There were some things that I would have picked up from Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company when my friends went. They were just completely out of. I don't know if they've lost that variety. Could happen. So take things into your own, stewardship. Get the seeds now. Learn how to save your own seeds and keep that going, because one, you couldn't buy them at the store just a couple of years ago. Plenty of places you could not buy them at the store. It's supply chain. Again, if somebody else has it and you need it, it's better to have it yourself when you need it than be dependent upon somebody else and transportation or acquisition or, whatever it is. And then, of course, financially, too. It's just cheaper to buy now than it will be in the future. That seems to be the way that it's going. Another one, this might be one you guys haven't thought about. And this is one that I need to store better. I just had the kids put them back here real quick. But I recently got new tires on my van. And I took the old tires, which aren't exactly up to par. I would like better tires than those on the van. That's why I went and got some. But those still have life in them. And here's the thing. If you have a vehicle that's functional and you only have 3 wheels, you do not have a vehicle that's functional. It wouldn't be that hard for even something like tires to be disrupted. If tires are gone, nobody's really driving anywhere. You're only going to be able to plug your own tires so many times, and that's if you got the kits. We like to have extra kits on hand because we live on gravel road. But a lot of times people just get the new ones and they dispose of them. That's fine. That makes sense, especially if you don't have somewhere to store them. I'm going to move these into the lean-to, but to me, those still have some life on them. I'd rather be able to put one of those on the rim, and there's ways to do that. You have to actually know how to do that to have it work. But rather than having something get disrupted where I can't go to the store and buy new tires, I can go to the tire shop or Walmart or wherever you might get them. If I've got them on hand, then my vehicle still works. We've actually been going through and investing some in our vehicles to making sure that they're up to running as good as they possibly can. And then any parts that weren't really completely wore out, but it was better to replace, like if I replace a serpentine belt, I'll save that old one off and in the vehicle, because if my new one snaps at some point and I've got the repair right there with me, at least I can put that on to get me where I need to go so that I can get one later. Think about those type of things. You don't want to be just stranded because you threw away something you could have used. Also, acquisition, right? A buddy of mine was picking up some of those, and then he was coming this way, and I said, well, grab a couple extra for me if you can. He said, yeah, absolutely. So I did. We got to get our rainwater storage up and running, and some of those things, because we want to be able to be set up to do things as best that we can. Thankfully, we have a septic system, so I can always kind of get rid of my waste, as long as I have some water to put in the back of the toilet will still function. I could also, since mine's at ground level there, I could also just build an outhouse above there and have it like an open pit toilet that goes straight into there. You know, that's thinking outside the box, but it's something that down the line, if I needed to, you know, we could do these things. So a couple things, if you look at like the fishing hooks even, and you look at the bolts for the crossbow, these are hunting and fishing things. If you look at the seeds, that's gardening. If you look at the tires, that's transportation. If you look at just acquiring things, that's the maintenance of the property. You know, like I said, a piece of wire or even just random building supplies. I may need to do repairs in the future. If I have these things available and they're stored properly and they exist in the future, then I can do those things. We've even been experimenting like crazy. I don't know if you can see the gar. See all those gar behind me? Earlier this year, I was making my own bows out of bamboo. There's a couple of them up in the rafters right now. And using gar scales as arrowheads to go shoot fish. Bow fishing is a legal way that we can shoot certain fish around here. And I was doing some of that just from my own materials because I can't go make my own compound bow. Actually, back on my little store there, that pegboard with all the stuff on it, there's brand new, at least one brand new fish arrow on there for bow fishing. But maintaining and having the good way of things that we have now, like using a compound bow with a big spool to go bow fishing, that's great. And I want to be able to do that. But I also want practice in, if I don't have that option or something happens to mine, well then how do I do it? Well, if I can make my own stinging nettle cordage from the stinging nettle growing here, I can cut down some bamboo, take a piece of bamboo too in a gar scale, make an arrow, and shoot my own bow and arrow that I made myself and harvest fish. Well, then at least I'm still harvesting fish. There's also different ways that I could actually make my own hooks, but it's a whole lot easier to take a hook that's brand new from the store that's designed to do that and use that for fishing than to try to make my own. You know what I mean? So while your dollars still have some bang to their buck, while they still have some buying power, think about these things. Acquire things that you need for your future projects. I've got quite a bit of what I need for my root cellar build. Concrete, I'm saving up for right now for the concrete for that pour, but I've got the rebar, I've got a bunch of the wood, I've got the roofing material, I've got some of the screen and some of the other things. I've got a good amount of it already on hand because I want to be able to complete that project. So the more I can acquire and save and store towards that project now, the easier it's going to be for me to complete that in the future. And one thing I'll mention too, okay, food and water I kind of talked about a little bit in here, but the other one is warmth. It was freezing a couple days ago. Right now I got a tank top on, but we've had our wood stove going. I had my wood stove going last night. If I didn't have my wood stove in, my heating options would be limited. If that's something that you want, put it high on your to-do list. For a while I had 3 main projects. It was the wood stove, it was this lean-to, and the root cellar. Winter was coming, so top priority became putting in the wood stove. Did that. I actually used some roofing metal and some rocks from the creek to help complete some of the stuff for it. But that became top priority. Then for my root cellar, I needed to store a bunch of the materials I acquired, so a bunch of those are back there. So I had to build this to store that, so that way when I get to the building section of that, the stuff still exists. I still have the lumber and the materials to do that with. So this became the top priority at that point. Now I got to get back on that, but saving for the concrete and moving forward to that, hopefully as we're able to afford. So those are just some different things we got going on over here. I was just saving those tires and picking up extra crossbow bolts and picking up those seeds. And I thought, you know what? These are some things that I'm doing to set myself up for success in the future. The things that I can do right now. They're things that other people can do right now. A little thinking outside the box, you know, not a lot of people always be like, you know what, there's still some life in that tire. I might not be able to get that later. Why don't I just save that skin so I can put it on the rim if I need to? That's the type of different thinking that a lot of people don't really have, but we got to start thinking a little differently if we want to set ourselves up for success in the future. So what did I miss? What do you guys have? What are you doing right now? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll see you next time. Papa out.